Untamed by Glennon Doyle is a memoir and self-help book that explores themes of personal liberation, self-discovery, and breaking free from societal expectations. Doyle begins by recounting a pivotal moment at a zoo, where she watches a caged cheetah that has been trained to perform for audiences. This image becomes a metaphor for how women are conditioned to live within constraints, suppressing their true desires to meet societal standards. She reflects on how from an early age, girls are taught to be selfless, pleasing, and accommodating, often at the cost of their own dreams and identity. The book delves into her personal journey of breaking free from these constraints. She describes how she spent years shaping herself into the person she thought she was supposed to be, first as a devoted wife and mother, then as a Christian influencer advocating for traditional family values. But beneath this curated image, she felt restless, disconnected, and suffocated by the expectations placed upon her. Her moment of awakening came when she met Abby Wambach, the woman who would become her wife. In an instant, she recognized a deep and undeniable truth within herself: she was meant to love Abby. This realization shattered the life she had carefully built, forcing her to confront the painful reality that she had been living according to other people's rules rather than her own truth. Doyle recounts the internal turmoil of making the choice to leave her marriage and embrace a love that felt authentic but also terrifying. She had to grapple with the fear of disappointing others, especially her children, and the guilt that came with prioritizing her own happiness. However, she argues that by choosing herself, she was also teaching her children an invaluable lesson about honesty, courage, and living a life that is true to one's heart. She emphasizes that women are often taught that selflessness is a virtue, but in reality, abandoning oneself to meet others' expectations only leads to resentment and disconnection. Throughout the book, Doyle challenges deeply ingrained beliefs about femininity, motherhood, and identity. She examines how women are socialized to suppress their instincts and accept discomfort as normal. She describes how she, like many women, had dulled her intuition over time, numbing herself with alcohol, food, and societal validation. It was only when she dared to listen to her inner knowing, the voice that had always been there but had been silenced, that she began to feel fully alive. She encourages readers to trust themselves, to embrace their emotions as guides rather than enemies, and to reclaim the parts of themselves that have been buried under layers of conditioning. Doyle also explores the idea that personal liberation is not a one-time event but an ongoing process. She shares how even after choosing love and authenticity, she continued to face self-doubt, imposter syndrome, and the lingering urge to conform. But instead of retreating, she learned to sit with discomfort, recognizing that growth often feels like loss before it feels like freedom. She dismantles the myth that happiness is found in following the right path, asserting instead that true fulfillment comes from the willingness to continuously evolve and redefine oneself. The book is filled with personal anecdotes that highlight the messy, nonlinear nature of growth. She recounts moments of parenting where she realized she had been unconsciously passing down limiting beliefs to her children and how she worked to undo that conditioning by modeling authenticity. She also addresses the challenges of stepping into one's power in a world that often resists change. When she began speaking out about feminism, racism, and LGBTQ+ rights, she faced backlash from those who preferred the more palatable version of her former self. Yet, she argues that the price of belonging to oneself is the willingness to disappoint those who benefited from one's silence. Doyle discusses the importance of unlearning societal narratives about love, success, and worthiness. She critiques the cultural obsession with control, whether it be in relationships, bodies, or emotions, and urges women to embrace the wild, untamed parts of themselves. She encourages readers to examine their own conditioning and ask themselves whose voices they have been listening to when making decisions about their lives. Are they guided by their true desires, or by the fear of judgment? A significant theme in the book is the distinction between pain and suffering. Doyle explains that pain is a natural part of life, but suffering comes from resisting that pain or believing that it shouldn't exist. By embracing discomfort and allowing oneself to feel fully, one can move through challenges with resilience rather than avoidance. She advocates for sitting in the fire of difficult emotions, trusting that they will lead to deeper self-awareness and transformation. The book also touches on activism and the role of women in shaping a more just world. Doyle argues that when women reclaim their power, they become forces for change, not only in their own lives but in their communities and beyond. She speaks about the intersection of personal freedom and collective liberation, emphasizing that the fight for equality requires women to break free from internalized oppression and show up unapologetically in the world. One of the most striking elements of Untamed is Doyle's writing style, which is raw, poetic, and deeply personal. She blends memoir with universal truths, offering insights that feel both intimate and profoundly relatable. Her words resonate with those who have ever felt trapped by expectations, those who have yearned for more but didn't know how to claim it, and those who are in the process of shedding old identities to step into their full selves. As the book nears its conclusion, Doyle reiterates the idea that each person has an inner knowing, a deep well of truth and wisdom that, if listened to, can guide them toward a more fulfilling life. She invites readers to stop seeking permission, to trust their instincts, and to create lives that are vibrant, messy, and uniquely their own. Ultimately, Untamed is a call to return to oneself, to unlearn the rules that keep people small, and to embrace the limitless possibility of a life lived authentically.